And here I am introducing myself again, April Kalkowski, Michigan Career Development Association President. And today we have a great session for the Career Cafe about supporting women clients and students in their career development. And I'm going to just hand it right over to Shannon Thomison, our wonderful hostess and our member coordinator on the e-board of the Michigan Career Development Association. Take it away, Shannon.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Hi, guys. So, as April said, my name is Shannon Thomison, and I am the membership coordinator of the MichCDA, the Michigan Career Development Association. And we're going to be talking about supporting women in the workforce. But of course, I want to definitely say hello to my other fellow board members, Tristan, April, Michelle, Laura, and Krista. Hello, guys. Hello. And I also want to introduce two of our amazing speakers. Our guest panelist, Ms. Ashley Richardson, who is a career associate director of career services for University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and Erika Lewis, the founder and CEO of the Erika Monaé Group. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you guys a little bit of background on the topic, and then I'm going to invite our panelists to kind of chime in. These ladies have an amazing array of experience in this particular topic that we're going to talk about today. So I definitely want to save time for them to fill your heads with knowledge on this topic. So I'm not sure if anyone knows it or not, but 2020, we're actually celebrating 100 years of women in the workplace. So how fitting is that we're actually having this conversation today when this year is actually celebrating 100 years of women in the workplace. Not sure if any of you guys know this, but I am a PhD student, so I'm always throwing research and stats into anything that I do. But I recently did a research study on the Tory Burch Foundation, and in the study, it actually reported that only 3% of women in top managerial positions, there are only 3% of women in top managerial positions in the United States, and 11% of those women are in director positions for Fortune 500 companies. So this data is alarming for me to show that there's such small numbers of women that are even in leadership roles, even for Fortune 500 companies. And it doesn't really give us a fair advantage in either our career advancement or even in entrepreneurship. And speaking of even in entrepreneurship, the Tory Burch Foundation, I'm not sure if you guys noticed or not, she actually created a foundation because her industry was not so supportive of women entrepreneurs. So she specifically created a foundation that actually supported women in their career development and entrepreneurial advancements. She felt that it was her responsibility it's our responsibility as a whole to develop the world around us and become more socially responsible and fight for social justice with women in business. And social justice is very, very important to us here at MichCDA. We want to make sure that everyone is able to advance and grow their careers. And Ashley and Erika, today, like we've discussed in the past, I really want you guys to just share your experience on being women in the workforce, being women who have held high positions, talking about what we as women can do to hold ourselves accountable, because some of the mistakes that are made, we do them to ourselves, and I've done it to myself before in the workplace, I'm sure. So I just want us to talk about, your experiences, what we can do as women to hold ourselves more accountable, and what the workplace can do to be held more accountable to help women in their career advancements. So whoever wants to start first, and it's just a casual conversation. So whoever wants to jump in and share their experiences first, Ashley or Erika.
Are you guys? Make sure I'm unmuted.
Oh, there you go. I see. Are you unmuted? All right, there you go.
All right. I'm getting signs that my internet connection is unstable. Or am I frozen at all?
Nope, you're good.
Am I good? Okay.
Yes.
So since I'm talking, I'll go first. So thank you for the invitation, MichCDA. And also, I am just ecstatic about this topic. One, being a woman. So that already in itself is like, yes, let's talk about this, you know. But I would just add so that Ashley can chime in. There's a plethora of things that go on in the workplace that, you know, that isn't necessarily set up for women to be as successful as we could possibly be. And one thing that I want to call out when you're saying, Shannon, hey, I've you know, done some things to myself. I think one thing what women do, we don't give ourselves enough grace. And what I mean by that is that we, as women, we tend to come to, and we have this mindset where we need to be perfect at all times.
Right.
And that level of perfectionism is very toxic to how productive we can be, because we want to show up and give our best, give our all, and win. But at the same time, it also it kind of taints who we are, and we aren't necessarily allowing ourselves to really show up at work as ourselves. So if we can give ourselves that grace to know that we are human beings as well, there are certain things that we need to thrive. I think that's one thing in particular that I would call out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Ashley, what is your take on that? Because I mean, you've been in career development for as long as I've known you, and even longer than that. So, you know, what's your take on that?
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm really grateful to have this conversation. I would have to start with just how we view ourselves as women. Are we perpetuating the stereotypes that have existed in the past up to this point? Are we taking on elements of that? Do we understand what it really means to be a woman in the workforce and have that nurturing spirit? And really, how do you cultivate that nurturing spirit that we give to our family and to our spouses and to those that are around us, and take that same element and nurture our career? You know, you could be nurturing and ambitious. I think that was the one thing I had to learn, and that ambition looks different for everyone.
I love that you said the word ambition, because that's Tory Burch's like keyword. She's like, why do we as women have to hide our ambition? And why do we have to hide, you know, what we're excited for? And as I was going through and doing the research, it was kind of sad to read the backstory of it, because she was so excited and her investors literally shot her down and said, you shouldn't really speak of charity work in business. And she took it very offensive. You know, it was, how is it that advancing women, you know, in the workplace and creating a foundation that helps them, how is that charity work?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I even said something to my husband, you know, is that it's still a generational thing. A lot of the men who are in leadership, and not just men, all the other women that are in leadership too, they're from prior generations where we weren't allowed to be in the workplace like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I've had a position where I was in a very tenured workforce. So it was a generation that has been there for like 30 plus years. When I mean 30 plus, I had people there that was like 45 years. And I'm like, aren't you ready to retire? But being in that very tenured workforce, it was also a very male dominated workforce as well. So with it being male dominated, with it being very tenured, that put me in a position where I stood out, but I didn't stand out in the best way. I stood out as, oh, that new young Black girl who, like, it was all these different elements, and nothing was really working out in my favor. So one thing that when I do mentor young ladies, I always say that the goal is not to be liked at work. You want to be respected. That's first and foremost. But the ultimate goal is when you're seeking out support and help at work and who you can trust at work, you want to find someone who isn't a fan of you. You want someone to be an advocate of you. You want someone to be able to advocate on your behalf, not just say, oh yeah, I like her grind. I like her work. Yeah, she's ambitious. You want someone to be able to say, like, we need her on our team and this is why. So that's what we need in the workforce, especially when we're in a workforce that is very tenured as well as very male dominated.
Absolutely. And I think we have to take a moment sometimes to really say, do I need a seat at this table or do I need to create my own?
Yeah.
And really defining what that looks like. Because sometimes they won't give us a seat, right? You know, and we can pull up a chair, but we can create our own table and be just as successful in that. So really understanding and standing on that and really researching and understand what do you want to do with your career? How is this going to be invaluable, and not letting anyone tell you differently that it can't be done.
Yeah, I mean, both of you just said something so powerful. It was just like an aha moment. I mean, going back to what Erika was saying as far as finding somebody that advocates for you, you know, talking on a small personal matter, Ashley actually used to be my my boss many years ago, you know, and she advocated for me. Like, she really did. When I didn't have that confidence in myself, she really advocated for me, you know, and she pulled me out of my own head to say, look at what you've done. You can do this, you know, and if you need help, I'm here to help you. And, you know, Ashley, as far as what you said, as far as creating that own seat, it makes me think of Erika and I. Erika, you stepped out on faith, and so did I, and started our own private practices. I mean, it's scary to do that.
Yes.
You know, Ashley,
It's
you
very
left a
scary.
company that you were at for years to go
9
to
years.
a bigger, you know, company, you know, so it's scary to do that.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
you know, but it's the holding that accountability, you know, for ourselves to say, okay, and being able to recognize when it's not for you in your path and being okay with that.
Absolutely.
Yes, that acceptance piece is really important. But once you accept, it's like the first step to a new breath. And you have a new way of viewing things, a new perspective. And you end up walking in your purpose so much easier than you ever thought imaginable. So.
Yeah. Now, I want to, you know, briefly have each of you talk about how you've gotten to the point that you're at. I think it's very important for women to see, or not just women, but for everyone to understand how, you know, we get to certain points in our career development. You know, Erika, you have that HR background. You know, Ashley, you have the HR/career development background. So could, you know, each of you guys, and, you know, we'll start with Ashley this time. Can you talk about how you were able to actually map out and manage your career development and get to the point, you know, where you're at? Did anybody help you? Did you have mentors? You know, how did your process go?
Oh, wow. That's such a loaded question. Absolutely. I think mentorship is so invaluable, but actually my first mentor was a Black man. And he was the one who kind of pulled it out of me to say, like, you can do this. Like, you're here, you can actually reach this. And really understanding and just continuously grinding, and the no's and not being understood honestly fueled me to want to prove them wrong. And in a space of proving somebody else myself, and I found what I enjoyed, and I just set a goal and I kept reaching it. Even when I applied for University of Michigan, I remember when I was looking at higher ed, Shannon, you know, we came from for-profit career services.
Yeah.
And going from for-profit to higher ed is one thing, but going from for-profit to an institution that familiar like I'm working at, and in this position, I was told that I actually would have to take a step back and be a coordinator for a while. I wouldn't be able to go into a director level role. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I've done the work, I have the experience, and this is where I'm going to stay. So not allowing other people around you either to be able to do that too. So for me, it was really creating actionable goals, but also leaving room for flexibility in what that looked like. Because sometimes we have these very clear visions of what we desire, and that may not necessarily be the best setup for us, right? So how do we step outside of that, and kind of going back to what you said, Shannon, and accept that and move forth and walk in a new path?
Wow. Erika, what about you? I mean, like I said, you started HR, and I wanted to have Erika here too, guys, because she does have that HR experience to give us those little tidbits of what we can do, you know, to kind of curve the problem a little bit or actually create a solution for it. So Erika,
Yeah.
tell us about your experience.
So I'm trying to, when Ashley was speaking, I was thinking, how can I sum this up in like a few sentences? And there's no way, so just stop me. I'm gonna try to land this plane. Um, but for me, everything started after I graduated undergrad. I graduated with a degree in accounting and finance, thinking that my ultimate goal was going to be a controller for this, you know, large organization because I love numbers, I love math, and I was really good at it. And someone told me I could make a lot of money doing that. So I said, okay, I'm in there. And when I got my first phone call from a recruiter to tell me, hey, Erika, here's an opportunity for you. It's paying, you know, X, Y, and Z. And something hit me. That's when the light bulb clicked. And I said, this is it. Not that I got this accounting job, but it was more of the fact that I want to be the other person on the phone, on the other end of the phone call, telling other people, hey, you got a job. Hey, here's how much it's paying. Here are the benefits. Like, I wanted to be a part of that positive impact on somebody's livelihood at work. I grew up seeing every adult around me in my neighborhood complain about work. I gotta go to work. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. So I wanted to be a part of the solution. And I always, and to this day, I feel that we spend too much time, too much money in our career to be miserable at work. So I wanted to be a positive impact on that. So I did 3 years of accounting and finance, and I transitioned into working for a staffing company, placing people that had accounting and finance background. So that's how I transitioned into HR, started in recruiting in that way. And once I did that transition, got my master's in HR and OD, and I started in a full-blown HR manager position at the Hilton Garden Inn. And from there, my career just progressed in terms of the level of responsibility, the complexities, et cetera, and seeing the good, the bad, the ugly, the great of an organization by being in HR is a very beautiful thing to see, but it is also a special thing, interesting thing. I'm trying to find a good word for it.
I think interesting is suits it.
Yeah, because you get to see so much, and you have to make the best people decisions possible. You're the person that's trying to mitigate risk, but also trying to develop talent. You're the person that's also trying to solve this issue with this leader and their employee, but you're also trying to make sure people are paid accordingly. And you're trying to make sure that you have proper diversity levels. You're trying to make sure people's voices are heard. So there's a lot of complexities, especially when you're in a generalist function role in HR. So once I got into a position in my career where I was developing leaders, and I was a part of more of the talent management strategy at work, I noticed that my coaching wasn't just a, hey, let me just tell you, you know, some good pointers and tidbits. I was really coaching from the heart. I began to see that I really cared about how people showed up at work and who they were bringing to work. I didn't really care about the title. I don't really care about how many years experience you have. I'll respect it, but it's not the forefront for me. And once I began to see myself doing that and operating in that way, and knowing my good and my bad and where I need support and help and development, it was a real big discovery. Like, the lens was taken back. I was awake to so many different things that I was missing in myself, in my career, my own talent and potential. And that's how I began to see, Erika, you're a coach. This is what you do. And so in addition to HR, I'm a coach. So coaching leaders is what I do. So that's when I was like, all right. And I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at some point. So it began to just develop and evolve as time went on. And I started my leadership coaching and HR practice. So that is how I am here today. In, I don't know, what was that, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. That was beautiful, because you both said something that resonated with me as to why I got into career development. And it's the love. It's seeing you know, taking somebody who may not have high self-esteem, taking somebody who may not have had the best home life, someone who, you know, maybe not have had the best support system, and telling them and giving them something they've never received before. You know, we in career development, we do so much more than just give someone a job. We give them a lifeline. And it's such a beautiful thing. You know, Erika, even when you said you wanted to be the other person on the other end of that call, giving that amazing news, you know,
Yeah.
me and Ashley, you know, we did that. And it's awesome. It's almost like you're more excited than your clients and your students to say, oh my God, we got them a job. Or, oh my God, I can't wait to tell them, you know, all these amazing things. And it's just a beautiful thing to do, you know, to be able to give that love and have that connection. And that actually is a beautiful transition into the next, you know, kind of question, you know, which is, you know, how can career development practitioners, you know, HR practitioners, you know, people within our industry, how can we give that help and support? Like, what tidbits do you guys have to give that support? You know, we're the ones giving it to our clients and to our students. Erika, from an HR standpoint, because like I said, I strategically picked you guys for a reason. From an HR standpoint, what tidbits can you give us, you know, career development practitioners to help our clients and our students?
With supporting women in the workforce, I would say, kind of going back to the first thing that I mentioned, for women we have to do the work on ourselves. And look at ourselves in a way, not to say, oh my gosh, I'm so horrible, I need to do better, but what are your strengths? Start there. Find out what is good about you. Find out all the things that make you you, and stand in that truth, because that's what you need to walk in. And nobody can really narrate that story. No one can tell you any different, because it's you. You know you. So hone in on self-awareness. That's the piece for women that I would say. For the workforce in itself, I would say I've encouraged leaders, male leaders specifically, to be an advocate for talented women. And it's one thing when we as women come together, we rally up and we advocate for other women in the workforce, but it begins to transition when you begin to see other men advocating for more women to come to the table, to be involved in this project, to have more of a voice, to lead this presentation. That's when I've experienced and seen that change, when I've seen more males actually advocate for women in the workforce.
Wow. Ashley, what about you? What are some tidbits that you can give to other career development practitioners as to how they can help their female students and clients in the workforce?
Absolutely. So I think I'm on a fitness journey, right? So we're told that weight loss is 90% of what you eat and 10% fitness, right? So when I think of development and just a person as they're navigating that process, I think when you're searching for a job, or you're looking to be promoted, or you're looking just to be cultivated in a different way, it's 90% how you're feeling and what you have, the peace you have on the inside. How confident are you? Do you have a clear understanding of a plan? And are you on a grind that no one can stop at all in that space? And then it's 10% that strategy in that search. So we spend a lot of time. I think over years, I realized that I spend more time on the people piece of it than the actual strategy piece of it. Because when you are confident and you feel like you can accomplish and take on the world, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do that. So that's the start. Is let's get down to that internal. Let's figure out, how are you learning to advocate for yourself? How are you learning to articulate your emotions? Because there are times in the workforce when women are just misunderstood. I can say the same thing one of my male colleagues can say, but I have an attitude, right? He can say it and he's just sharp. He's curt. He's just direct. It's like, why are we assigning that to it? So I've gotten to a space now where I can be in that moment and someone can say something and I said, no, I'm passionate about this. So I find myself being communicative and finding ways to communicate my emotions in that moment, because we all have them in the workplace. And because this negative stereotype exists does not mean you need to apply it to me in this moment. So before you even get to that point, I have adopted a communication style of that. And that's something that I teach in people. You can speak up and communicate how you're feeling. You can speak up and communicate how you would like to be heard. You have to just dig deep and find the right words to articulate it and stand in that truth. That's one of Erika's favorite lines: stand in that truth. You have to stand in that. You have to stand in who you are and not letting anyone else deter you. And when you hit that, no matter what happens, no matter what storm comes your way, you're going to still be planted on your own 2 feet. And that, at the end of the day, is what matters. So from that perspective, I definitely think it's a people thing. And I would have to agree. I think from a practitioner perspective of what can employers do and how can we make sure that we're cultivating that, it comes down to training. Do we really understand what it means to work with women in the workplace? Mm-hmm. And maybe when we start planting that seed of understanding, then people will be more empathetic. Everybody will be more understanding. I understand you better, so now I can be your advocate. Because a lot of times we ask for advocacy where there's no base level of understanding. Right. So how do we get from, I want to be almost like what we're going through right now, how can I be an ally? What does that look like? And what does that mean? And recognizing that if you do nothing, then you're literally just as bad as the people that are on the other side of that. So how can I get from the point of wanting to be an advocate and taking the steps to get there to really be influential in that space?
Yeah. So just to piggyback real quick off of what Ashley said, Shannon, when you're saying you're strategic with this, with my HR background, so what I just want to make mention of, just 2 things that Ashley touched on that hits on diversity and inclusion. Mm-hmm. Diversity from the aspect of bringing women in, making sure women are highlighted in a way where they are not the outsider, if that makes sense. Right. So when she's talking about being able to articulate your emotions, because women are known to be emotional, right? So with that being said, we have to create a culture within organizations where people are allowed to articulate their emotions, yes, both men and women. And if men are able to do it, then I say it's on HR and leaders to be able to recognize that. So when there is a woman who's articulating her emotions, that we have to keep people in check. That's one of the things to say. It's not any different than when, Jerry said, the same thing the other day. This isn't any different. They're talking about the same thing. It's right on us to play that card as leaders and as HR within the organization to pull that out, to make sure that there's that balance. And then the inclusion piece of it is making sure people are all invited, are all included, without any, hey, this woman, she's a little, like, we get that in the workforce right all the time. And so we just need to ensure that, yes, you're bringing everybody on board, but you're also creating a safe place for people to have those conversations, for people to be able to say, okay, who are you? Let me get to know you, so that they can become an advocate, so that they can become an ally for you within your career journey.
It's amazing. I know you 2 didn't participate in our last 2 career cafes. The last 2 touched on supporting people of color and Blacks in the workforce. And I'm noticing a trend within that conversation in this one, and it's advocacy and relationship building. Mm-hmm. Those were the 2 things that the prior 2 speakers and panelists talked about. Was you have to be able to know who you're advocating for, and Ashley, like you said, if you know who you're helping, if you have that relationship with them, then the other, 10-15% of it is just strategy, and that helps so much. And Erika, you touched on something very important too. Us as career development practitioners, we also need to be mindful of the organizations that we are reaching out to, seeking, employment opportunities for our clients and for our students, whether it's women of color, women, people of color, you have to know that organization. And I think, more in specific for this particular topic of women and supporting women in the workforce, I think that's key. At our prior institution that Ashley and I used to work for, we had a lot of Middle Eastern students. And we had to be very particular and very careful at how we assisted them with their job searching. They couldn't work with men. They couldn't be around men. So we had to really get to know that female culture of them and really understand them, really find out, what they wanted to do. But we also were very honest with them. We didn't sugarcoat it. That's another thing too, is you don't always have to handhold, women, or coddle us as if we're babies. We were very honest with them when we said, hey, we respect your culture. We respect, the things that you can and can't do. However, it does limit your chances to work at X, Y, and Z organization. So I think being honest with women as well and not, being so hand-holding or coddle, that's something else too. It's advocacy, relationship building, and honesty. You have to be able to have those three things to really, really help. And speaking of organizations, the last point that I really wanted you guys to touch on is how can we as practitioners help organizations support women in the workforce? And any one of you can kind of jump in on this because both of you guys have had your turns of going first. So
yeah, I don't mind taking that on first. So I think it kind of goes back to the training. I think understanding and really creating those spaces for training. I'm very fortunate to work for such a large institution to where we have a center literally just tailored for women. Just in that one space, right? And a lot of organizations don't have that same ability. So making sure that training exists, workshops exist, you're bringing in the right people, you're being intentional about how you're connecting your employees with professional development opportunities. And honestly, just being open, honest, and listening. And it's going to take for us to speak up and be okay with, I call it positive confrontation, where you're able to have a conversation about something in a positive way, but you're not coming from it from a place of venting. You're saying, this is what I need, and this is why I need it, and this is what other women need, and this is the why. And it goes back to the data. What are the stats? What are we saying? If your organization is 60% women, but you have no training that's geared towards supporting women, then what are you really sending your employees as a message? Do you value them as individuals, as people? So I think it really comes down to, I'm a big advocate in training. I think there can be a training created for almost anything. And it doesn't have to start with everyone, because I think that's a bit of a lofty, ambitious goal, even though we like to get there. It can start with a small group of people and then take from that, then they'll take on mannerisms, they'll take on morals and values, and it'll be instilled in other people around them.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's a process.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to really piggyback off of that, because we've touched on a bit that, what organizations can do. And I would second what Ashley said about the training, but I would say training 2.0. I am a huge advocate for training and development. And but the thing that I've recognized in organizations is that they will push training, they would be an advocate for training, but yet there's no sustainment plan. There's not a plan to evaluate the training, if it even worked, if they had the key takeaways from it, and if they are truly embodying whatever, we've given them in this training. So I would say create a very robust sustainment and evaluation plan to ensure that the training that you just delivered was valuable and that they have actually learned. So if with one of the deliverables is for the workforce to demonstrate diversity and equity and inclusion, a mindset, if that's kind of one of the objectives, how are you measuring that? So when Ashley's saying it goes back to the data, this data is going to allow us to be able to articulate whether or not this is working, or if it's just one piece we need to tweak. So we need that information to be able to move forward in a way to move cultures, shift perspectives and behaviors. So I would say training, but training like 2.0 and take it a bit further, because I feel organizations will jump on that bandwagon to do training, but they don't do training and take it even further from an evaluation and sustainment standpoint, because that's really where the work needs to be put in.
And I have one more thing that I want to have you guys talk on before we go to Q&A. And this is something that I did not email you guys. It literally just came to my mind. When it comes to us as practitioners for career development and supporting women in the workforce, negotiations, and when it comes to salary. How, what is your
go big
tidbits?
Or go home.
What are your tidbits on that, as far as how we, how do we translate that to our female students and to our female clients?
Oh my goodness. So I have, for the past 4 years, I have been teaching a workshop at a conference on advocating during the negotiation process.
Wow. And she's really good at this, actually.
Yeah, like this is literally, I have alums from years ago that call me and say, I heard that you're the salary lady. Can I talk to you about how I should navigate this conversation? And it's honestly just being not afraid to ask, being aware of what you're worth and asking for that value and standing in that. And understanding when you're looking for a job, it's not just about, are you a good fit for that organization? Is that organization a good fit for you?
Yes.
Like, this is a relationship. We get one-sided a lot of times in that process because we're so focused on getting there, right? Mm-hmm. But you need to be making sure you're paying attention to yourself in that moment. Do your research. Understand what this job offers, what this position offers, and how can you get creative about what you're asking for? Is it money? And find out what value is important to you. Because for some people, it may be money. For others, it may be time off. For others, it may be money for professional development, because it doesn't look the same for everyone, right? Finding out what that is and finding a way to ask for it. I'm not afraid to ask for what I deserve anymore, because that's why there's such a large salary gap between us and men. We do not do the simple thing of just asking. Mm-hmm. You have to ask, and ask for what you're worth and stick to it, because a lot of times when you're that confident, when you're that confident, they have nothing to do but to respond to that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So just to piggyback a little bit, know yourself, know your worth. Like Ashley said, that is the most important. Yes, you must do your research. That's a given. But you need to walk in knowing who you are with that confidence, because that is going to exude. The other side of the table, the HR manager, the hiring manager, they're going to see that. That is going to ooze out. And it's no longer, I've walked into this interview with you technically interviewing me. I'm interviewing you. I'm just telling you who I am. So you have to have this level of confidence that they've never seen before, where they're like, is she interviewing me? Because I'm trying to give her a job, not the other way around. Like, you want them to think that way. Yes. And once you do that, you've changed the game. Then you don't hesitate with asking for what it is that you want. So knowing your values, like Ashley mentioned, yes, know if it's time off, if it's benefits, know what your priorities are, so that when they come to a salary point, because some companies are very tight on their salaries, but yet maybe they can give on another end because you haven't asked for it. So because you haven't asked for it, you don't even know that they have the capability or capacity to give you more of, whether it's professional development dollars, more time off, a different type of benefit. So whatever works for you, stick to that. Don't sway from that and your value. Again, stand in that. Stand in your truth. If you know who you are, you know what value you're bringing to the table, they can't touch you.
Wow, ladies, thank you guys. So I've been thanking you guys for the past 4 weeks. Thank you again. This was amazing. I mean, we've been doing we transitioned into the social justice cafes since August. And as you guys can see, the next one is going to be on supporting Latina students and clients in the workforce. So I'm excited for that one. It's October 3rd at 11 a.m.
Actually,
April
it's October 13th.
October 13th. October 13th. I saw that email and I didn't know if it was a typo or not, but it's October 13th at 11 a.m. But I want to open up for questions that you guys have for Ashley and for Erika. Please, please, please ask them a ton of questions. They are a wealth of knowledge. Like, I'm so serious. They are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to career development, period.
There are 2 questions in the chat box. One is from Tristan, and he asks, what are some actionable steps men can take to uplift women in the workplace and support their careers?
If your organization has a mentoring program already, volunteer and step up and say, I would like to mentor a woman. I would say that's one way that men could do it. And to ensure that whatever teams you're a part of, whether you are a leader or not, to ensure that there is a balance of men and women involved in projects, involved in work assignments, etc., and being able just to advocate for that. I think men have a very powerful role in being able to vocalize the talent that women have, and I mean the power that we possess. We know as women what we possess because we're women and we know we're great, but it's very helpful if men can articulate how great we are.
And just to piggyback off of what Erika said, Tristan, thank you so much for that question, because that means that you want to be a part of the solution, right? So asking is the first step to that. And kind of going back to what Erika stated, if a mentorship program doesn't exist and you're interested, create one. Talk to the women around you, find out what's needed, what support is needed, and how can I support you? Don't automatically assume you know how to support them, right? So starting to have that conversation, dig deep, and believe me, before you know it, you'll be a big ally. But it's just about not being afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations to say, how can I support you in this way? Because maybe I haven't been the best advocate in the past. I've recognized that and I want to make a shift.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you both for that. Dr. B asks or states, I appreciate this conversation so much. Thank you for creating this space. I do have one question. What steps do you take to avoid deficit-based coaching?
Deficit-based coaching.
That's a new one for me. Yeah.
Deficit-based. Can she define that a little bit more for me?
Dr. B, are you still with us?
Hi, yes, he is here.
Sorry, thank you.
No problem.
Sorry.
Hi, this is Clyde. So what I mean by deficit-based is coaching or working with people from the things that they lack. So you don't have this, so let me fill these gaps, versus the strengths and experiences that they do have that they can leverage in the workspace.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, so ask that question one more time.
So what steps do you take to avoid deficit-based coaching? So when you're working with someone, and it's easy to see all of the things that we lack, all of the things that are missing, all of the things, how do you encourage them through that? Because that's where this perfectionism, I heard you all talking about that earlier,
Yep.
is we think about all the things we don't have and how we are imposters, right?
Yep.
So how do
Yep. Okay, I get it now. Thank you. That's a good question. Deficit-based coaching, love it. So it's very important for HR business partners to partner with their leaders so that they understand that, yes, while your job is to be able to call out the supposed deficits in your team, your ultimate job is to ensure that you are aware of their strengths. Strengths is directly linked to engagement. Engagement is then directly linked to performance. So once you find the basis of someone's strengths, then you will be able to say, okay, here is where I can put you. Here is where I can, see you navigating. Do you see yourself in this space? You can start to have that exploratory conversation with your team member based upon their strengths. So focus on the strengths, because once you focus on their strengths, naturally a person's going to feel good about what they're doing because it's more natural to them to do this work. They'll become more engaged, more productive, and then you will see your performance increase from an organization standpoint. So I would say, to avoid that deficit-based coaching that you're mentioning, don't focus on those things. Focus on the things that you know for a fact are their strengths. And if you don't even know what their strengths are, That's a discovery for you. Now you can dive into that conversation. You can now do these assessments to determine what are their strengths.
I know, to jump in for a second with that, what I used to do with, and what I still do with my current clients and what I did with my students prior to is I tell them, own it. Everybody has something that they're not good at. So, okay, you don't know how to type that fast. Okay, that's okay. But what are you doing? What's the positive side? What are you doing to fix that?
Yeah.
So I would tell my students, you know, that class that you just took, or you know, that training that you just went to, you can easily say, yes, my weakness is X, Y, and Z. However, I have been taking this class or this workshop to improve that, because that also shows that you are taking accountability and you're taking actions and those steps to improve what you're lacking. So yes, definitely focus on the strengths, because that's what gives us our, you know, our confidence. It builds us. But also be okay to say yes, because none of us are perfect. Be okay to say, get out your head.
Yes, get out my head.
See, this is how we were at work. She was tired, like, get out, get out, get out. But yes, it's be okay. It's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have to piggyback off of both and say, I think we just need to normalize that everyone has deficits. Like, it's okay. We need to be able to talk about that. Like, it's normal. It's not a bad thing. It's not a dirty thing. We all have them. And when we have that level of understanding, because a lot of times we're in our own heads a lot, and we don't even understand that, oh, it's not just me. I'm not the only one dealing with this. I'm not the only one that need to overcome this. And then it almost gives you like a big weight lifted off your shoulders and a breath of fresh air to continue to endure to even get to your strength. You know, first, really understanding that it's okay that you may not have this skill, but let's talk about how you can get from point A to point B.
Yep.
You know, and while you're getting to point A to point B, look at how your positives are going to play into that. You know, so really, really tying that all together, because we all have good and bad things about us that we want to change. And normalizing that it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to acknowledge that. And honestly, there's power in understanding and articulating that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't hold you hostage.
We have to normalize being human.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, you just have to normalize.
It's absolutely
which is
okay.
sad, but we have to normalize being human.
Because we've created this perfectionism culture, and it's literally no one is asked to be perfect. Literally no one. So, but we think we have to be. So if we normalize that, if we understand that, then that's step one. To say, okay, well, yeah, I have this, and I can say this loud and proud because I'm doing A to work on it. Yes. So you're not going to use this against me. So it's not a weapon against you anymore. It becomes something that you can actually have fuel to get to the next step.
Yep. Taking the power back. April, do we have any other questions for our beautiful panelists?
No, just lots of love. Lots of love.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, ladies, I mean, did our board members have any questions or anything? You guys just love them. Everybody just seems so relaxed and just like, yes, thank you for this. You know, I'm just so grateful that I was able to reach out to you two, and you guys jumped in and said absolutely whatever you need. So thank you guys again so much.
Absolutely.
Truly, we appreciate this.
And
if anybody who is in the career development industry, whether you may not be, your title may not say career development, but you help with workforce and helping people getting, you know, employment, please feel free to email us and join us for becoming a member. We have an amazing conference that's coming up in November. April, I'm throwing that out there now. We have an amazing conference that's coming up. It's going to be virtual. The member, if you're a member, it's 20. April, is it 25 for the registration?
I can't remember. Just,
I think it's 25 for the registration. And if you want to become a member and also attend the conference, it's 65. So shoot us an email, let us know. Ladies, thank you guys so much again. If there are no other questions, everybody enjoy the rest of their beautiful day. It's supposed to be nice here in Michigan, so enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.